Hello, everybody. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News, reporting to you from Mandalay Bay Casino here in Las Vegas, Nevada. I think I can share my whereabouts, as by the time you watch this, I'll have checked out. All of the fans arriving to find me. No, but we've got a last-ditch conversation to have before tomorrow's evidentiary hearing between Bachelor Clayton Echard and the lady who has accused him of being the father of her unborn twins, Miss Jane Doe. It's almost comical sometimes when we pull out from the sort of how closely we look at these conversations, because it does seem sort of foolish to be so entrenched into such a very simple and very small league court trial here. Family law could be one of the biggest family law trials as far as publicity is concerned ever, from the standpoint of like this could possibly be, it could have been resolved on day one, but it wasn't, and here we are, and I'm going to talk about it. I received a message on our patreon.com/Dave Neal, and I wanted to read it for you guys. Emma said, "I know it's probably too late now since everyone is traveling to Arizona, but I would love to see Dave or Megan or Lauren or any of the streamers do one last video before the trial as an open letter to Clayton and to Jane Doe. Whenever Dave gives those little speeches directed at her, they're always so powerful. I think both Clayton and Jane Doe could really benefit from hearing it before the court date. Just basically to wish Clayton luck, and then to also encourage Jane Doe to get the help she clearly needs." You know, on the podcast Rush Hour, we've discussed a lot about personality traits related around narcissism. Not an expert, but they say with like a true narcissist, you'll never reach them. You'll never convince them to see things differently, because their style of communicating isn't necessarily a give and a take. It's a take. I don't know what the case is here, but clearly there is a fortress built around Jane Doe's lies. She may listen to this, she may watch this, she may think she can wiggle her way out of this, but I will give my thoughts on where I see this moving forward. But first, let's talk about Clayton and Mike and Greg and Matt and maybe Sean, the contractor, and whoever else is out there. It's a dang shame it took to reality TV show, specifically a niche like mine, that covers the barrel scraping stories that nobody else wants to cover. We are bottom feeding shrimp. That's all we are. We don't cover the gigantic stories. We're kind of just like an irreverent show that looks at this little slice of Americana known as a dating reality show, and I offer my opinions, from what style toe people might have to whether or not Dale and Claire are back together. Did they call the paparazzi? Really unimportant stuff. And once in a while, as I'm learning, we have an important story to tell. And I've had folks ask me on the podcast, I think I probably lost a listener. I have another 1-star review on its way. Why don't you cover Israel the way you're covering this? Or why don't you cover this the way you're covering that? And there's always like a whataboutism happening. And again, in their aspect, they were wondering like, why are you talking about pride when you aren't talking about this? There's always something else we could be doing. We can only put our energy in so many different places. But this was a very specific case of like, look, I can't solve world hunger, but it's like we have someone who's starving right here. And that starving person was Clayton, whether he's going to admit it or not. Mike, Greg, they were starving metaphorically for someone to, I guess, be brave enough to get their back. I'm not saying that about me, but this audience has really invested their time and energy into justice when it wasn't a big enough story or a story that fit an agenda that would have been right for other publications. So yeah, early on, I was mad at Us Weekly. I was mad at the People magazine. Why won't they cover this? That ain't what they do. They don't bite off these types of stories. They cover, what type of dress someone wore to their after party at the wedding, right? That's what they do. That's who they are. But in a weird way, I found myself kind of relatively prepared to handle this. I never could have handled what her current lawyer was throwing at me. Well, I guess you could say I did because we're here. But it was a challenge, and it was some rocky waters because it wasn't what I expected it would be, to just kind of do what I thought was my job, which is to share the evidence, give my opinion, and let other people think for themselves. I've never encouraged anyone to stand by everything I say. You've welcomed my opinion as it's very centrist in the sense that I think it's a fair opinion to have, which is that these men were absolutely treated in a way that wasn't fair in a system that wasn't meant to defend them. The system was meant to defend her. More importantly, moms. And I get that. That moms are the ones that deliver babies in family court. They're the ones generally that get stuck with the bill. So I understand why the system is meant to protect them. She used that. She used that to control these men. So this whole story isn't a simple family court story. It's a story of someone who weaponized a court that's meant to be there to protect moms and dads too in those cases. But I think what we learn is because the system's there to protect moms, and again, I'm not a family court expert, so you might disagree, but because the system's there to protect moms, we just saw this sort of loophole that she was exploiting to file a paternity plan, to do all these things. And she really thought in the back of her head, no longer pregnant, I can just dismiss this thing. And she knew that from doing it multiple times in the past. You guys didn't let that happen. And that's a huge pat on the back to you. That's a victory lap to you that we get to where we are today. Clayton decided to pursue this non-paternity after he saw the way I was treated. After he saw the cyberbullying, Medium article and things like that. When that came out, he knew damn well he was next on the chopping block if he didn't get this story straight right now. His story's never changed. So Clayton out there, doubt he's listening. He knows where I stand, that he's done the right thing, not just for him, but for these other guys. And Mike, Greg, I mean, they're looking at Clayton like a guardian angel. As bad as this is, that he got dragged through this, he wasn't going to be the last one. And maybe this will help people in the future. Just shining light on, no, you don't get to do this. So my cap is tipped to Clayton, his family, and everyone else that doubled down. I also need to shout out Clayton's attorney. I don't think they expect they're ever going to get a penny out of this. Even if they get a ruling in their favor, I don't think they expect they're ever going to get a dime from this. But it became more than that. Her attorney has argued, oh, he's only doing this because it's personal. Damn right it's personal. Damn right it's personal for Clayton's attorney. He's been smeared by Jane Doe in the past. He's been smeared by her current attorney. And really, he doesn't deserve it. He's done a very good job. That law firm's done a very good job knowing full well they weren't, because it's one thing if Woodnick doesn't want to get paid for what he does. He's got Deandra and Isabel. He's got them working thousands of hours on this case. They're getting paid. So it's a big deal that this that all of these different things that happened led to us actually making it to the June 10th finish line. If we didn't have the support of the audience, the onlookers, those curious folks that want to see how this turns out, if we didn't have your support, this case wouldn't have gotten this far. Wouldn't have happened. So thank you guys all for that. Now to Jane Doe. What can you possibly say? I'll say this. I've come to understand that my words are an accelerant in some cases for positivity or negativity. I learned this yesterday. I stepped in shit trying to have a casual conversation about what to expect tomorrow. And then I realized because my audience is so loyal and means well, that I kind of released some of these barracudas that tried to pick sides and this and that when we're all on the same side. Meg, Lauren, anyone else who's covering this live and helping out, of course, the great work behind the scenes of Brad and Bruce. And there's so many people. I dare not even try to get them all now because I'm going to miss somebody. From Dana in the courtroom to everyone who's helped out, to Tori, and we've got caterers and Joe, and there's so many people. I'll say this weekend, and this is a message to Jane Doe. This weekend, I was at Reality Steve's Fan Appreciation Weekend. I know you probably don't think too highly of him. He had a room full of people in Vegas that flew here from Victoria or from Vancouver Island, Canada, from across the country, from all different places. Some people from Hawaii. They all came here to appreciate Steve. And in turn, because of a shared audience, I got a lot of that love too. And let me tell you this. The frequency of love is so much stronger than the frequency of hate. Any advice I could give you is to try to stop taking from others and try to harness something yourself. You're young. You're still really young. Where are you going to be at 40? What's your legacy going to be? It's not going to be winning over people's opinions on what happened here. That's it. You've already lost. As far as I'm concerned, no loophole is going to change the opinions and, of course, the actual statements that you've shared of why you did what you did. Go the full distance. Go the full distance and explain the fraud. Explain whatever attachment, anxiety you face when you're rejected, why you don't feel like you're enough, for the battles you have as sibling rivalries or living up to your mom's expectations. Explain that. Break that down. Write. Explore. Make a TED Talk. They don't want to pick it up, release it on YouTube. I will be there to cover it and say, you know what? Damn. Yeah. All right. She did what she needed to do to get her truth out there and change the direction of her story. These audience, let me tell you, they're gonna remember this story for the rest of their lives. It's gonna be on the internet for the rest of their lives. You're not gonna run away from that. No name change is gonna change that. I don't say that to taunt you. I'm saying that to say, let today or tomorrow, let it be the first day in a new life, a reburn. Baptize yourself with some fucking truth for once, okay? Bathe in it. Bathe in it. Because let me tell you something. We're winning. And we collectively is truth and justice. It's winning. It's kicking your ass. The fears that I have of what you may or may not try to pull off tomorrow to divert eyeballs or attention or self-harm, these aren't random fears. You've spoken about it ad nauseum, about the self-harm you're going to do to try to prevent people from telling the truth. Any amount of poison you consume, metaphorically, to hurt me is not the way to go. And that's what a lot of people do when they take and don't give. Give. Find a way to give. You want to have a self-help podcast? There's a huge amount of people out there that suffer from anxiety or try to live life with narcissistic tendencies or attachment disorders or whatever it is. There are so many people out there struggling to feel their place and their position in this world. I'm assuming you included. We're all out there. We're all the nerds who didn't feel like we were the cute kid. We've all got that ugly duckling shell. But what side of this story are you going to be on? You picked with Clayton Echard, a guy who has overcome so much in his own life. And, you hid behind the fact that you were supposed to be believed and they weren't. And you reached out to publications privately and you created fake accounts to torment people like me, to get our stories to change. You've changed HCG tests so that we'd believe you. You ripped off ultrasounds from your sister. We know all of this. We already know all of it. Some things you've proven by saying it out loud, and some things that we've just forced your hand on by hiring experts. There's no changing the perception of what went down because there's an objectionable truth that everyone believes because, believe it or not, there's a lot of great critical thinking that still exists in this world, okay? So you won't find me being a hater if we can at least stop the lies and move forward. I don't know what else to say. There may be a scenario. There may be, if that's the path you choose, that there's a very interesting interview we do someday. There may be a scenario. You rebrand, do a podcast, why I faked pregnancy, why I tried to control these men, what I was feeling on the inside. Share that pain. That's a magnet. There's a lot of pain out there. Do I think this is going to happen? I think if anyone might give you a come to Jesus moment. It might be me. You think we're all some crazy cult. You think we're all out to get you. I'm not saying I'm going to invite you to the family barbecue. I'm not saying that whatsoever. But I would respect if at this point you show up tomorrow, you throw your defense away, you throw your bogus experts away, and you get up there and just admit. You don't have the money, or maybe you do, to pay these guys off to, for the damages done. But it ain't going to get any easier. The only people winning here really seems to be your attorney. I think he's the only one who's going to make money in the legal system here, is your attorney. So you file an appeal, you lose, all that money goes straight to Clay. It's like, there is no scenario. So I kind of feel like the guy with the megaphone outside the house saying, give it all up. Just come out with your hands up. Let's start with some truth. Why don't we start there? I'll be live at 7 a.m., I believe, tomorrow morning, June 10th. I will see you guys then. The chat room is wide open right now on Patreon at patreon.com/Dave Neal. And if you need any other encouragement, Laura, if you need any other encouragement to tell the truth, I've got a brand new linen shirt I'm wearing tomorrow. And and it's going to be a good one. All right. Everyone have a good Sunday. Be blessed out there. Call your moms. I've got my final pre-trial commentary on the podcast tomorrow morning. I release it at midnight, so you'll be able to check that out. And that's called the Rush Hour with Dave Neal. All right. We're done here. We said our piece. Good luck, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.